where do they get the money from? Because obviously if your business is worth a lot, employees who have mortgages don't just have a lot of money sitting around to buy in.
How do businesses usually decide how much equity to allocate to employees?
It really depends on you, and by that I mean, so the first step is, yes, look, they do have to pay for it. They do, because as you've highlighted, if they're issued shares at a discount, there is an income tax problem. So the first step for lawyers and accountants that we deal with is how do we get people into this business in a tax effective way? Generally with shares, and there are different approaches with shares and options, but with shares we do make employees, or we often recommend that they do pay for it, and they pay market value or for various tax planning reasons, potentially just under market value. Now, the next question is, well, where do they get the money from, right? Because obviously if your business is worth a lot, employees who have mortgages don't just have a lot of money sitting around to buy in. So quite often the business lends to the employee, but the money goes round in a circle. So the business will lend the issue price of the shares to the employee, and the employee will pay it straight back to the business. And that's what we call a loan funded plan. Now, what that means, though, is that that debt still sits there. So, for example, if you issued me $1 million worth of shares, I would have to borrow, say, $1 million from you to give you $1 million. I still owe you $1 million. What that means is if the business sells in the future and say my shares are worth $3 million at the time, I would only keep the difference, which is the $2 million profit, because I still have to give you $1 million.
And how do businesses usually decide how much equity to allocate to employees? I mean, thinking for myself at the moment, we've got the senior leadership group. I mean, it's hard until you have these really open conversations. Is it 1%, 0.5%, 10%? At what point, what is your experience? Like, how much do you allocate?
It really depends on you. And by that I mean how big your business is. So, for example, if you've got a business that's worth $100 million, right, it's going to be very hard to give a senior person 2% because that's $2 million. And then you've got to look at how is that funded. And we did talk about the loan funded plans, but there are some other complications. When you've got a startup, you often see that startups, for example, allocate 20% of their equity to what they call their option pool. And they then issue those options as new people come on board. But one of the problems is you exhaust the option pool very quickly. You make some big hires, you make some big promises, and then you're often going back to your shareholder group and saying, hey, can we please have more options that we can give away?
And when you issue those employee share schemes, in a corporate register, you have generally, when you set up a company, there's ordinary shares, which has all the rights under the constitution of the company, voting and all the rest. Are these tagged separately so that they're identifiable as employee shares, or are they ordinary?
Well, different schemes can have different classes of shares. Most schemes have ordinary shares or options which convert to ordinary shares. And there's a range of detailed reasons for that, and I will say mainly tax in some ways, because there are various things in the Tax Act that talk about ordinary shares. There's also corporate, I wouldn't quite say legal reasons, but more commercial reasons, in the sense that you say to your employees, well, you've got the same rights that I have, right? You're on the same level as me. But there are other schemes where you might have non-voting shares. You might say to the employees, look, I'm giving you these shares to participate in dividends and to be able to sell them to make lots of money, hopefully when we sell the business. But I don't want you coming to shareholder meetings. I'm the only one who's going to vote. It's still my business effectively at the end of the day. This is a profit-making tool for you. So if I need to get something done, I don't want to have to ask my lawyer to prepare notices of meetings and wait 21 days, and comply with all this formality. I just want to be able to get the corporate stuff done just like I was doing before, but ensure that you are also rewarded.